Hello, everyone. Welcome back to another episode with me. I apologize for not being consistent with my videos. It was just because of some personal commitments and too many things happening in my life of late. So I wasn't able to be consistent, but I intend to be consistent from now on, right? If you're new to this channel, I request you all to go and watch the previous episodes and see what I've spoken about in the previous episodes. And if it interests you in any way, I would love you all to walk along with me on this journey, right? I'm not going to take much of your time. I'm going to start directly into the conversation today. So imagine you're sitting in a beautiful orchestra, right? With various instruments coming along and, you know, creating a environment. But with the various instruments, it can be a noise without a director, right? When the director raises his baton, every beautiful musical instrument goes in sync, right? That is exactly how our brain is. It is a beautiful director which helps each and every part of our body to come into a beautiful synchronization, right? So, in today's episode, we are going to be talking about that. In the previous episode, we met our brain as a character in a story, right? Having having its own quirks, having its own habits and personality. So we saw how it loves patterns, how it craves safety, and how it almost jumps into conclusions even before we realize it, isn't it? So, in today's episode, we are going to go a little step further ahead and see our brain not just as a personality, but as an ultimate coordination center wherein our thoughts, feelings, movement, and a heartbeat are all coordinated beautifully. So, having an awareness about how our brain works in real time, especially during the times of stress and during the times of big decision making, will make us become the director of our own life instead of a passenger of our own life, right? So, in today's episode, we will explore the functions of the brain and how this information can help us in our overall well being, right? So, I will take you further ahead and I want you all to imagine your brain as a bustling city, okay? Wherein each and every department is working seamlessly to move everything to run smoothly, right? Okay. So I am going to be focusing on three different parts of the brain today. The first is the prefrontal cortex part of the brain. Imagine this part of the brain as your city's planner, okay? Wherein it plans, it helps in decision making, it helps in problem solving, and also regulates your emotions. Okay, so the second part of the brain that we are going to be talking about today is amygdala. So, amygdala, I want you to all imagine it as a city security system, okay, wherein it detects the threats and it switches on a mechanism called the fight or flight response system in us, okay. And the third part of the brain that we are going to be talking about is called the hippocampus, okay. Hippocampus, imagine it as the city's library wherein it stores the different information and memories and helps us learn from those experiences, right? Okay. Now, having spoken about all of these things, I want to take you through this aspect of it, wherein the chronic stress, wherein when we encounter any stress on a daily basis, right? It's the amygdala that comes into the it that switches on the alarm and says that you're in danger, okay. But in modern day scenario, what happens is that everyday's challenges is seen as a threat, okay. And when everyday's life challenges is seen as a threat, what happens is that the stress becomes chronic. That is, chronic as in it's sustained over a long period of time. And chronic stress can impair the prefrontal cortex ability to think clearly, to make decisions clearly. It almost forgets to problem solve and also forgets to regulate your emotions, which is why we feel tense or anxious most of the time, right? So, this is because of the brain going into this phase of alarm system because of everyday's life challenges, because it sees everyday's life challenges as a threat. Okay, so connecting the previous episode to this episode, we understand that our brain is our friend, a loyal and a dramatic friend, but also we understand why it behaves this way during the times of stress, isn't it? It's not trying to sabotage us, but it is just trying to keep us always in the survival mode. And when the stress becomes chronic like this, what happens is that the brain starts to think that this is the new normal. Okay, and unknowingly and unconsciously it starts sending in information and messages like, oh, are we in danger? Is this a threat? Are we safe? Such kind of information or such kind of unconscious messages start settling inside our body, and this constant message actually dims the prefrontal cortex ability to make decisions, right? And this not only affects our overall health in course of time, but also begin to question who we are at the same time, isn't it? The belief of who we are. And slowly in course of time, from that from that space, we start viewing our experiences in the outside world from this very lens, which can be quite destructive in nature, right? But we also know something very beautiful about the brain that we learned in the previous episode, that it is highly adaptable, and its adaptability is through a property called its neuroplasticity, isn't it? So, where do we step into all of these things, right? We step right at the point where the stress becomes chronic. See, let's be honest. Life is always throwing challenges at us every single day, right? Bills, deadlines, presentations, etc., 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 right? It is always throwing challenges at us. But where do we step in is we recognize that moment where our stress could sneak in and create a camp inside our brain. That awareness needs to come about. And that awareness is something that I wanted to send through this video, wherein we need to start seeing those points. But let me also be very honest with you on all of these things, right? It is shocking, and it's also a very tricky thing to not even recognize that we are under chronic stress. It's a very shocking thing. I didn't recognize this for a very long time. I was so busy in my lab work, doing my lab stuff, and so many other activities. And I was just in constant this on the go mode wherein I forgot to slow down, you know. And this made me realize that I wouldn't sleep properly, and all of those things I thought was normal. That's the problem. We don't recognize that we are under chronic stress, and that's really not a very good news, isn't it? So this is what I want to bring. That awareness is what I want to bring over here, right? Recognizing that very moment when the stress is becoming chronic to you. We think that being restless, being anxious, and being, in this conscious tension state because of the situations is normal. It is not. And I also, hear a lot of people saying this, right? Stress is normal. Let me be loud and clear over here, right? Stress is not normal. It is common, yes, but it is not normal. And if we start thinking that it is normal, it is as equal to thinking, or it is as equal to having the fire alarm system running ringing for a very long period of time and we ignoring it. It's not right. Life will keep happening. Life is throwing challenges, and yes, we are like sponges absorbing from the various experiences that we have during the course of time. It is inevitable, but what we do with what we absorb is where we need to come into the picture, isn't it? Yes. So if we do not slow down, if we do not pause, if we do not take that breath, if we do not reset, and if we do not release the stress that has been settling inside our body for many, many years, imagine it like the sediments of the sand, it will start making you feel heavier. And over the course of time, it is the stress that is running its show, and it's not you running the show, right? And it is scary, it is not only uncomfortable, but it is very, very unhealthy. So through this video, I just want to bring this awareness and say that awareness is our superpower, right? So what do we do in times like these? When you recognize that your brain, all your brain wants to know is that you're safe, and all we can do at this point in time is that you slow down and tell your brain that it is actually safe, right? Okay. Another thing that I want to bring about in this conversation is our brain is not trying to be our enemy. It is the most beautiful and loyal friend and the most beautiful protector. But you also know how it is becomes reactive when there is a stress, when there is a situation of fear, and all of those things. And when we understand how our brain reacts in all of such kind of scenarios, we also have learned, or we also come into a learning that is very, very powerful, that we don't need to respond to every panic. We don't need to respond to every assumption that it makes, or we don't need to react to every emotional wave that it creates. Isn't it? Does it make sense? So, this awareness is the awareness about the functioning of our body, of our brain, and bridging that gap with the knowledge that we have about the brain and how it can affect our overall health is my duty over here. And I hope I made sense to you in all of it, right? So it is this awareness that is our superpower, wherein we tell our brain that it is not in a dangerous state and it is in a safe state, and that is for us to do. So bring it to the safety mode all the time, and I will give you examples of such kind of situations. So uh, so when the brain goes into this tantrum mode, right, when the brain goes into this tantrum mode wherein it is fearful of a situation, right, I will connect this situation to a situation wherein a child is throwing a tantrum, right? Do we as adults also sit along with the child and to throw tantrums, or are we going to sit along with the child, let them behave the way they are behaving, we just observe and sit beside the child and hold their hands probably and say that, you know what, I'm here, you're safe, okay, and you're going to be all right? Are you going to say this, or are you going to go into the emotional wave that the child is throwing at you? We are going to do the prior one and not the latter one, isn't it? That's exactly what we do with our brain. Our brain is just a child, right? So what we do as an adult, so we do as an adult as what we do is we sit along with it and not get carried away by it, right? And this awareness is our superpower, and this awareness helps us be an adult in the room, not only in the room where a child is, but also inside our heads, right? So the greatest help that you can do to the brain is not speed, is not the speed. The greatest help that we can do is to have the safety to slow down and being able enough to make the next best possible move. This is what our brain needs for us. And this is the ability that we need to create for ourselves, right? Okay, so I will give you another life situation wherein we are sitting in the examination hall, right? Suddenly you look into the paper and you see a question that you might not know, right? You go into the panic mode and you mind starts creating uh, messages like, oh my god, I think I'm going to fail, I've not done good enough, I'm not good enough, am I not worthy, etc., 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 isn't it? And what you can do at that point in time is take a pause, take a deep breath, right? Drink some water, maybe just, you know, shift your head here and there, look at people around, and then look into the paper again, right? You might find one question that you will be like, what it is not so bad. Then you start writing that, isn't it? So, what exactly happened over here? Your mind went into a panic mode, but did you have to respond to that panic? No, right? It was, after all, just a noise. It's not the truth, isn't it? That's exactly what I want to realize. I want you all to realize through this video, this awareness. Okay. And we don't have to get carried away by all of these waves at all, right? So, as we continue with the series that is to come, and your self awareness is the greatest power that we have. And that is what is going to unleash the incredible power within you, right? So while I was writing all of the script, right? And, you know, um, when I wanted to speak to you all about this, I also had a very interesting question come into the picture, right? Very interesting question that came in my mind. Why is brain called the most intelligent part of the mind, most intelligent part of the body, if it does not know to decipher or understand the difference between a real threat and an imaginary threat? Yeah, because I had that question come up. I don't know if you all had it come up, and I want to like talk about it, right? See, our brain is just here for protection. That's its role and its job, and it does it beautifully, right? If now, say for example, a situation wherein a tiger is standing right in front of you, the brain is not going to take time to sit and recognize that, oh, is it a real tiger that's there, or is it just an imaginary tiger? It is going to respond because it has to respond immediately. If it doesn't, then we are in some deep trouble, isn't it? So, our brain's function is to put our alarm system on immediately without even reading the situation, right? Now, I'll give you another example. You're sitting in a school, okay, and suddenly there is a pop sound. It triggers and alarms you, right? Your body jitters, your heartbeat fastens up, and you'll be wondering what exactly happened. And when you turn back and see the reason for a pop sound, it is just a balloon that is burst out. Then what happens? You look at it and say that, ha, we are safe, there is no trouble, isn't it? Let me take you through this scientifically. What happened? The amygdala was the one which triggered the response immediately after hearing the noise. It said that there is a threat, be ready, right? So that's what it does. So you became ready and you looked around and saw that it was just a balloon making a pop sound. And then what happens? The prefrontal cortex part of the brain comes into the picture, which is a wise decision maker, and says that you're safe, it's okay, it's just a balloon, right? So you're safe. So this aspect of the part of the brain that I spoke to you about, that we do unconsciously, is what I want to tell you and bring this ability of us, which we've been doing unconsciously, consciously into our life. Make sense what I've spoken about till now? right? So in situations, in most of our life situations, be it during the exam, be it during presentations, be it during deadlines, or even a shift from one job or one school to another, um, all of these situations are seen as a threat, um, are seen as a threat by our brain. But it is not the kind of threat wherein we encounter a real life tiger. Okay? But brain doesn't know to differentiate that threat and this threat. All it knows is to keep you safe. That's it. But we have to tell that these things, all of these exams, all of these, whatever I mentioned to you about, is important, yes, but it's not a threat, and it's not life threatening situation. That is something we need to induce and practice and tell ourselves every single day. Okay, these situations are important, yes, but they are not life threatening, as in like seeing a real life tiger in front of you. And when you start making that as a practice, and when you keep telling your brain that it is not as, we should stop, making it look too bigger than it actually seems. And when we start practicing that slowly and steadily, our mind thinks that, oh, what she's saying now, it makes sense because we are it's not something life threatening. And slowly and steadily it starts to take that information and starts to make you feel calm and lighter, and more grounded person, as a more grounded person, isn't it? So when you're giving such kind of commands, and when you have this awareness that's set in that these things are not life threatening but it is important, slowly your mind knows that it's not life threatening, and starts to change the hormones that's there inside you as well, right? So slowly and steadily, with such kind of commands and such kind of awareness, you become a better individual every single day. And this is exactly what I want to bring across in these videos, isn't it? So I really had a lovely time having a conversation with you on this part of the brain as well. So, syncing in the previous episode and this episode, you know how our brain is just a fantastic individual, right? That is trying to protect us. But also, we come to know where exactly we have to take in the charge, right? We take in the charge when when the first response is activated by the amygdala. We come in and tell the brain that this is not a life threatening thing and you are safe, right? So, that is where we come into the picture, right? So, through this awareness, you're not only surviving the stress, but you are growing through it gently, beautifully, and with some deep self trust, right? And that self trust is only because of understanding how our brain functions. The knowledge about it is helping us in our overall health. I hope this made sense to you. I enjoyed explaining it this way. I don't know if I was all over the place, but I hope the message is delivered in the right way. Until the next episode, you all stay curious and be along with me to discover more beautiful wonders that's there inside all of us. Have a lovely day. Bye bye.